Listen, I don't know what you've seen online, but Bleach is one of the most broken and most powerful universes out there. There are some abilities in the Bleach universe that are just incredible. And I've been wanting to make a fun little video for you guys, and I thought, hey, this is going to be perfect for the job. So welcome to the channel. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And these are the 10 most broken abilities in Bleach. By the way, these are not in order, I'm just giving you 10. Number 1, the Almighty. Let's start things off really simple and easy. The Almighty is quite simply the most powerful ability in Bleach to date. Kubo and the Hell Arc might give us some crazy content for the future, but for now, the Almighty has to remain at number 1. The Almighty gives its wielder the power to see and alter the future. This power allows you not to merely see the future, but you can view all different future possibilities that are as numerous as the grains of sand or stars in the universe. You can view the choices people are going to make and set traps and actually reach into the future to harm them in certain ways. Yuha broke Ichigo's Bankai by reaching into the future and destroying it. The Almighty also has such powerful Ryatsu behind it that the wielder of the Almighty has the power to facilitate the creation of different worlds onto themselves. The Soul King possessed the Almighty, and it is with his power that the entire human world, the entire Soul Society, and the entirety of Wakamundo were made. So it's extremely powerful, but it's not limitless. It does have limits. In my opinion, there are 4 possible counters for the Almighty. First is the Soul King. Wielders of the parts of the Soul King cannot have themselves impacted by the Almighty's ability. When Mimihagi takes over the Soul King, Yuha's Almighty is unable to see that future, and he did not see that coming. It was outside his range of vision. The second possible limitation of the Almighty is the Quincy arrow forged from the still silver residue left in the victims of Yuha's Ashvalen. It's only able to stop Yuha's power for just a moment, but it still can. Thirdly, there is Kyoka Suigetsu. Based on my own personal interpretation of the source material, Aizen's Kyoka Suigetsu is able to counter the Almighty. However, there is a limit. You see, Aizen doesn't typically insert himself into the fake out he's doing. He's having you perceive your senses differently, so he doesn't actually have to do anything. But because he's specifically going up against someone who can see the future, and a person in Yuha who is incredibly powerful, Aizen does the out of character thing, out of necessity, and implements himself into the fakes. So he can make a dragon seem like a flower bed, but against Yuha, he steps in to take the place of what he's faking. He plays Ichigo and gets his sword cut. He plays Renji and gets his arm cut off. He plays Ichigo again and gets his chest impaled. He doesn't have to do this, but I believe because it's Yuha he's fighting, and because he has absolutely no room for error, he needs to sell the scene, and so he needs to be the one who takes the hits. And finally, we have whatever Ichigo's Bankai ability truly is, that could possibly also overpower the Almighty. Whatever it is, Yuha feared it enough to destroy it before Ichigo could even use it. So, just putting that out there. But basically, unless you use the Still Silver to completely negate his powers, so that Yuha isn't technically wielding the Almighty anymore, he can rewrite futures where he's already died. What an incredibly powerful ability. Number 2 on my list is one I just referenced a second ago. Aizen Sosuke's Kyoka Suigetsu, one of the most powerful powers in anime period. Its Shikai ability is called Kanzen Simon, or Complete Hypnosis, which allows Aizen to have complete and perfect control over a person's 5 senses. He's controlling the entirety of your senses so that you perceive what he wants you to perceive. It's completely flawless. Even if you know that you are under its influence, it doesn't change the fact that you have no control over what it is that you're experiencing. In order to place someone under Kyoka Suigetsu, Aizen needs to show the person his Zanpakuto technique. As long as they've witnessed it, they will forever be under his control. But I want to elaborate on that point specifically, the forever part. Because it's not really forever. What it is that the only way Aizen can keep someone under his control is to never turn it off, essentially. If he puts you under Kyoka Suigetsu and then turns it off, he would have to redo the ritual to get back control. So what Aizen does to get out of this, and this is actually insane, he basically never turns it off. He has so much Ryatsu that he keeps it on permanently and is constantly draining Ryatsu because of it. I always wondered if Aizen going into Mukin and being bound rendered Kyoka Suigetsu mute up to that point because he was restrained, but thinking about it now, I'm genuinely not sure. Let me know what you think down below. But even if it was, the new Aizen, whose Zanpakuto has bonded with his physical body, doesn't need a sword anymore. As long as you simply look at him, he will place you under Kyoka Suigetsu. He doesn't even need to do anything anymore. Now, to me, there are only two known ways to counter Kyoka Suigetsu. The first is to possess the Almighty, the strongest ability in the known universe. If you have that, even though you were a little bit affected, you can change the future where you die and you'll basically be fine. Basically. The second way to counter it is a little bit more complicated. You need to make contact with Aizen's Kyoka Suigetsu blade before he's released his Zanpakuto ability. We know this from Gin Ichimaru, who spent centuries just to be able to learn that one secret from Aizen. Gin wasn't under Aizen's hypnosis. He remained free from Aizen's control, but not immune to it. Not until he placed his hand on the blade. Aizen took notice of that, and Gin consequently betrayed Aizen. So, you see, we might disagree on this, but in my opinion, if you touch it once before activation, you are permanently immune. It's a logical trade-off when you actually think about it, so just work with me on this. If he shows it to you once, you're permanently under its spell, but if you touch it once before he does, you are permanently immune to his spell. So in any case, some people might say that's not true and they don't believe me, and I could explain it to you in this video, but this seems like a better video idea for a different video, so I'm gonna save that. I'll make a cool video on it for you guys. Come back to me later for that. But moving on to number 3. Number 3 on this list, again, no order here. Number 3 is Shrift D, the death dealing. Now for this one, we're gonna dabble in a little science. You guys like science class? No? Well, too bad. Rebirth does science. Delicious, magical science. And in today's science lesson, we're gonna talk about something called the lethal dose. Now, what in the world is lethal dose? Lethal dose is the minimum amount of a substance that when absorbed will result in certain death. Being that it's virtually impossible to equalize the exact lethal dose for every organism due to variance in size, species, and other factors, certain generalized minimum amounts of substances were established. So essentially, the death-dealing ability allows Askin to control the lethal dose of a substance for his opponent. In other words, and work with me on this, if it takes 200 milligrams of caffeine to kill a person, Askin can make it so that it's not 200. What if it was instead just 20? You would die that much faster. Not only that, what if it wasn't just caffeine? What if he raised the lethal dose of your ability and made it so that before, a 200 power attack would have killed him, but now he can only be killed by a 20,000 power attack? Better yet, what if he makes it so that your own blood becomes poisonous to you by lowering the lethal dose of your blood? Do you see how crazy of an ability that is? If Ichigo attacked Askin with a Getsuga Tensho attack, and that Getsuga Tensho did not kill him on the spot, he could make it so that Ichigo's Ryatsu type is no longer lethal to him. And the only way Ichigo could defeat him is if Ichigo had a way to change his Ryatsu type, which is virtually impossible if you're not Yoruichi. That is broken. That is nuts, insane, and it gets even worse. In his complete holy form, his death dealing can adjust to the adjustment a person makes to their Ryatsu, and this happens automatically and almost instantaneously. So he's extremely powerful. The only way to counter this ability is with numbers, or if you have the Almighty or if you're Yuha, you can just take his powers away and then you can beat him. But if you're not Yuha and if you don't have the Almighty, the only way you can beat him is to overwhelm him with numbers. But the death dealing ability 1v1, it's basically unbeatable to anyone who isn't Yuha and possesses the Almighty. Or Aizen. Let me take that back. I'm sure if Aizen sees him, he's immediately under Kyoka Suigetsu and we're done. Man, Aizen is broken, yo. But your only shot, really, if you're not one of those two people, is to overwhelm him with high numbers so that one of you can get a good shot. He's basically Jujutsu Kaisen's Mahoraga, but faster. His is instantaneous almost. Well, maybe slightly slower than instantaneous, but you get the idea. Number 4 is Sutara Senjumaru's Bankai, and I can't even say its name properly. Let me see if I can try. Shatatsu Karagara Shigarami no Tsuji. Oh wow, I guess I could. Okay. It translates to Loom of the 6 colored floating patterns of death. Now her Bankai, straight from Jump, has enough power to shake all 3 realms of Bleach, and we literally see it happen. That's just the start. Her Bankai ability seems to be the power to weave the fate of her opponents into a different tapestry and subject them to that fate within her disclosed Bankai space. The opponents caught within seem powerless to stop her, and honestly, it'll be very interesting to see how Uryu and the others break out. There isn't a lot of information on how one could theoretically counter her Bankai ability, so for now I'll keep her on this list, but it's going to be very interesting to see how things play out in Core 3 of Bleach. At number 5, we have Jurgrim Hasvalth's Shrift B for Balance. This ability allows Jurgrim to direct any misfortune that has occurred and disperse it to those who have experienced good fortune. I guess Jurgrim could also be a person who could counter Askin's death-dealing ability. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, maybe more dudes could actually counter it, but I digress. In addition to this, if any misfortune besets Hasvalth, he can direct it into his Freund shield, which is the shield he carries, which he will then amplify and return to his opponent for even more damage. The power was able to influence Hikufune's Cage of Life, which had the ability to self-regenerate and was fast enough to deflect Lilibaru's attacks. His power steps into the realm of conceptual reasoning. Controlling misfortune is an abstract concept, and it would seem that he gets the benefit of deciding what is and isn't misfortune. When Yuha left the Cage of Life, he established that to be fortune, and then harvested that fortune into misfortune, which then broke the barrier. The only known ways to counter an ability like this are to have an ability that either negates his power completely, like Yuha just taking it away, or an Uryu who also wields a power that allows him to reverse cause and effect. I would imagine that people like Jared Valkyrie could also do something to counter this if they had the chance. But point is, Jurgrim Hasvalth is very, very powerful. Coming in at number 6 is Uryu Ishida's Shrift, A for Antithesis, which grants him the power to designate any 2 targets and reverse anything that has happened between them. So, for example, if damage has been inflicted onto him by an opponent, he can reverse that and shift the damage from himself to his opponent. If an object has been thrown over there, he can reverse the location of the object and switch their positions. I do wonder the limits of his ability though. Like, could he reverse life and death? If there were a dead person on the battlefield, could he reverse their lifeline by switching the life and death that exists between them? There may be limitations here we're yet to see. Maybe he doesn't have to be one of the targets if an inanimate object is in play, like with Yuha's medallion, because he didn't throw it but he still reversed their locations. Whatever the case, we'll see. But even with that initial ability, being able to reverse cause and effect is an insane power, and it's deserving of being on this list. Number 7 is Ichimonji, the power wielded by Ichibei Hyosube. In Shikai, he has the ability to cut the names of anything his brush touches in half, rendering them 50% weaker. Better yet, in Bankai, being able to take away a name and consequently give a new name to anyone or anything. First, his ink makes contact with you and strips you of, it strips you of you. And after stripping you of that, he gives you a new name, and you are bound by that ability to be what he names you. In his battle against Yuha, he strikes Yuha's arm, and his arm is no longer an ARM, it is now an AR, and only half as strong. He then strikes Yuha across his body and reduces his overall power in half. He then proceeds to cover Yuha in his black ink and gives him a new name called Black Ant, rendering him as powerful as his namesake. That is how terribly powerful Ichibei Hyosube is. All black that exists in the world belongs to him. In order to counter his abilities, you'd either have to have a power that allows you to restore your strength like Yuha, or the Almighty. The Almighty basically counters almost everything. Or you defeat Ichibei before he has a chance to use his power of black. Overall though, I'm looking forward to making my Ichibei video soon, so I won't say anything much longer. Just know that Ichimonji is definitely deserving of being on this list. Number 8, Lilibaru's X-Axis. Yet another broken ability belonging to one of Yuha's elite Sterner Corps. X-Axis has a lot of powers here, so let's go through them. First of all, It has the power to pierce all things. No bullets are fired from his gun because there's nothing to block. Put simply, anything he sets as the target is pierced without mercy. Even if an ally stood behind him or in front of him, as long as he has not designated them as his target, they will be unaffected, but his target will still be pierced. He's also able to use the ability of intangibility. Before he transforms, this happens when he opens both of his eyes, but once he enters his complete holy form and his even greater form after that, he becomes intangible all the time. His physical body becomes a mass of light, and in this form of light, you cannot physically affect him, and he cannot be killed by any exterior ability. The only way he can be countered is by his own attacks. If there is a way for his own attack to be fired back at him, he will be affected, and should it be strong enough, he will die. It was a little bit too convenient how Nanao Zanpakuto provided the perfect counter, but hey, that's a story for a different video. Number 9 is the Miracle. Gerard Valkyrie possesses one of the most elite and broken abilities in Bleach called the Miracle. The Miracle has the power to manifest miracles. Given form to the thoughts, feelings, and desires of those around him. The more improbable a moment is, the more likely it is for a miracle to occur. Any damage inflicted onto him is taken in and transformed into physical size, making him bigger and bigger. If he loses a limb or any body part, it grows back stronger than it was before. He also wields a sword of hope that allows him to reflect any damage back onto the attacker. If you swing at him and the sword chips in any way, your physical body will be cut as well. In his complete holy form, his power drastically increases, and Gerard will continue to evolve and regenerate even after powerful attacks seemingly take him down. There are only two known ways to defeat Gerard Valkyrie, really. The first is to somehow take away his powers like Yuha did when he absorbed it back onto himself. And the second is something Kubo revealed much later down the road. Whenever Gerard is killed and has to reform, there is a Quincy cross that appears, and so long as that Quincy cross remains intact, he will keep evolving, regenerating, and growing stronger. But if you were able to destroy that Quincy cross, you could, in theory, kill Gerard. Thing is, you'd have to possess a power strong enough to defeat him in the first place, and that is already a tough ask. And finally we have number 10, Katan Kyokotsu Karamatsu Shinju. The Bankai of the new Captain Commander Shinsui Kyotoku is one that was greatly desired by the Bleach fandom, and Kubo did not disappoint. In Bankai, Katan Kyokotsu Karamatsu Shinju allows him to adapt acts of a tragic play. In this play, the tale revolves around a man who is consumed by guilt. This guilt pushes him to jump into the ocean until he drowns, left with nothing. No longer able to witness her former lover in this state, wife ties a thread around his neck and kills him. Shinsui adapts this play into reality and subjects his opponent and himself to the different acts of the play. First is the sharing of pain, which causes the wounds between Shinsui and his opponent to be shared, but this will not kill either of them. The second is the pillow of shame. His opponent is covered in spots that causes them to bleed as though infected by a vicious disease. The third act plunges both of them into an ocean of despair, one that neither of them can escape. This ocean will drain both of them of their Ryatsu to the point of death. And then the final act is the blood-soaked throat, an instant kill technique that cuts off the opponent's head with an intangible thread. The only way you're surviving this Bankai ability is if you have some kind of regenerative power that allows you to survive being beheaded, and technically killed to be honest, or some weird hacks where nothing but your own power can kill you, as was the case with Lidabara. I suppose maybe if you had more Ryatsu than Shinsui, you could outlast him in the ocean as it drains both your Ryatsu, but it's almost impossible to evade some of these Bankai because essentially, when they create these quote domains, they end up having their way. It's very much like the Jujutsu Kaisen guaranteed hit domain expansion thing, where like after they activate it and you're caught in it, it's really difficult to not be hit by it. But there you have it. Those are 10 of the most broken abilities in Bleach. Make no mistake, there are more. There are so much more, and maybe I could make another edition of this where I talk about 10 new abilities, but these are the 10 that I was personally interested in sharing with you. So the next video could easily have a different list comprising of Shuei Hisagi's ridiculously overpowered Bankai, or maybe Shinji Hiraku's Bankai, Kenpachi's Bankai, or Kido like Kurohitsugi, or Quincy techniques like Desclaveret, and so much more. But alas, I wanted to keep things simple and straightforward. In any case, tell me the ability you think you'd most like to have, and let's have a conversation down below. This is your boy Rebirth signing off until the next video. Like, comment, and subscribe as always. Peace out.